Milan. Fashion capital. Bright lights. Catwalks. But behind the velvet curtains, terror. Not the Mafia of Sicily. Not the Camorra of Naples. Something different. A gang that didn't play by the old rules. A gang that made Milan a city of fear. Locals whispered one name. They didn't say it loud, because people who said it loud disappeared. This is the history of the Milan Gang. A story so strange, so full of contradictions, that even investigators struggled to believe it was real. It started in the 1970s. Italy was already drowning in chaos. Terrorist attacks. Political murders. Kidnappings. They called it the Years of Lead. But while the Red Brigades and far-right extremists grabbed headlines, a new group rose in Milan. They weren't political. They weren't about ideology. They were about power, money, and fear. They called themselves La Banda della Magliana di Milano, the Milanese Magliana Gang. Though historians still debate the exact name, one thing is certain. They didn't follow tradition. Normal Italian crime groups had rules, codes, honor. No killing women. No killing kids. Milan's gang? They laughed at that. They didn't respect the old mafia. They broke rules openly. And they used terror as their signature. Explosions in nightclubs. Shootings in broad daylight. Kidnappings of wealthy Milanese families. And here's what made them unusual. They filmed some of their crimes. Not for evidence. Not for ransom. But for fun. To watch later, in private screenings, as if violence was a movie. At first, the police thought these were random crimes. Petty robberies. Drug turf wars. But patterns started to appear. The same cars used in different heists. The same weapons linked to multiple shootings. And one shocking detail. Eyewitnesses described gang members wearing designer suits. In a city obsessed with fashion, they blended in. Shoot someone in broad daylight, then walk away looking like a runway model. This wasn't just crime. This was theater. By the early 1980s, Milan wasn't safe anymore. People stopped going out at night. Bars shut down early. Even the rich locked themselves inside their villas. The gang's power spread into banks, nightclubs, even construction companies. But every time the police thought they had a lead, it vanished. Files went missing. Witnesses retracted statements. Judges suddenly dropped cases. It didn't make sense. And that's when whispers began. The Milan Gang wasn't just a gang. They were protected by someone bigger. Investigators dug deeper. They found contradictions everywhere. In one case, the gang robbed a bank, yet the vault was already open. In another, they kidnapped a millionaire's daughter, but she was released with more jewelry than before. A murder victim was reported dead twice, in 2 different hospitals, on the same night. Something wasn't adding up. Were these criminals? Or were they being used as puppets by someone else? 1983. The gang pulled off their boldest job. A daylight armored car robbery. Downtown Milan. But here's the bizarre part. When police arrived, the guards were alive and laughing. They said the robbers had offered them champagne, then disappeared with millions in cash. How did that happen? Why would armed guards laugh during a robbery? It made no sense. Unless the guards knew more than they admitted. Journalists began connecting dots. The gang wasn't just stealing. They were moving money. Some of it to political groups. Left wing, right wing. Didn't matter. Whoever paid got their services. One reporter described them as terrorists for hire. And that terrified everyone. Because it meant Milan's gang could strike anywhere, for anyone. 1985. A young prosecutor named Marco Terranova tried to investigate. He compiled a massive file. Names, dates, bank accounts, secret meetings between politicians and gang members. One night, Terranova drove home. He never made it. His car exploded on a quiet Milan street. The file, gone. But rumors spread that Terranova had made copies. And that's where the story twists. Years later, a retired police officer revealed something chilling. Terranova's file didn't just connect the gang to politicians. It connected them to international intelligence agencies. Yes. Foreign spies. The Milan Gang wasn't just a local terror group. They were allegedly being used in secret Cold War operations. Bank robberies funding covert missions. Kidnappings masking political assassinations. Explosions staged as terrorist attacks. The inconsistencies, the contradictions, they were deliberate. Smoke and mirrors. So, who controlled them? Who pulled the strings of Milan's most violent gang? Some say it was the CIA. Others point to Soviet handlers. Some even whisper about the Vatican Bank. But here's the part that will haunt you. In the 1990s, a mysterious videotape surfaced. Black and white. Grainy. It showed masked men at a table. Behind them, the skyline of Milan. On the table, piles of money. And in the corner, a man in a suit. Some say he was a politician still in power today. The tape disappeared before it could be verified. And the Milan gang? They vanished too. But their ghost still lingers. Because just last year, another armored car vanished in Milan. Same method. Same signature. Decades later. Coincidence? Or proof that the Milan gang never died? Last time, we uncovered the strange rise of Milan's gang. Criminals dressed like fashion models. Robberies that made no sense. A prosecutor blown up. And a secret file linking them to spies. But the story doesn't end there. Because what came next was even darker. By the late 1980s, something shifted. The gang stopped making headlines. No more bombings. No more flashy heists. Just silence. Police thought they had collapsed. Those internal wars had destroyed them. But survivors in Milan whispered differently. People said the gang had gone underground. That instead of chaos, they now moved like shadows. Smaller hits. Quiet extortion. Strategic assassinations no one could prove. The city felt calm. But under the surface, fear never left. 1992, Tolly was drowning in a new scandal. Tangentopoli. Politicians exposed. Bribes everywhere. The Clean Hands investigation shook the country. And right in the middle? A bank collapse in Milan. Billions vanished. Investors ruined. The press blamed corrupt politicians. But hidden in financial records was a pattern. The missing money followed the same route as Milan's old gang cash. Swiss banks. Shell companies. Fake charities. The gang had evolved. No longer robbing armored cars. Now they robbed entire economies. One man tried to break the silence. His name, Pietro Il Sarto Bianchi. They called him the Tailor. A minor gang member. Arrested on drug charges. In exchange for leniency, he told investigators everything. He said the Milan gang was alive. That they worked hand in hand with politicians. That they had infiltrated fashion houses, soccer clubs, even city councils. But here's the chilling part. Before Pietro could testify in court, he disappeared. His last known location? A luxury hotel in Milan. Security cameras showed him entering, but never leaving. The police searched every room, every hallway. No trace. It was as if he dissolved into thin air. Months later, a body washed up near Lake Como, badly decomposed. No fingerprints, no teeth. But inside the jacket pocket was a tailor's measuring tape. Coincidence? Or a warning? The message was clear. Talk, and you vanish. Meanwhile, whispers about Prosecutor Terranova's missing file never died. Rumors spread that he had left a copy in a safe deposit box. Others claimed he sent documents abroad. To Paris. To London. even to New York. Then in 1998, something strange happened. A small-time burglar broke into a lawyer's office in Milan. He expected cash. Instead, he found VHS tapes. Dozens of them. Police seized the tapes. But the contents were never made public. Sources leaked that they showed Milan gang meetings. Politicians. Businessmen. Even foreign men in military uniforms. Within weeks, the burglar was dead. A suicide, they said. But he was found hanging, with his hands tied behind his back. The gang wasn't just about Milan anymore. Evidence suggested they reached far beyond Italy. Drug shipments traced from Colombia through Milanese ports. Illegal arms shipments passing through northern Italy to the Balkans. Money laundering tied to casinos in Switzerland. One Europol agent later said, "The Milan gang didn't vanish. They globalized." And yet, in Milan, everyday life continued. Fashion shows dazzled. Tourists flooded the Duomo. But in quiet alleys, in underground bars, locals whispered, "They're still here." 2003, a shocking event dragged the gang back into headlines. A wealthy Milanese family held a wedding in a countryside villa. At midnight, masked men stormed in. They shot the groom, kidnapped the bride, and vanished. Police later claimed it was a robbery gone wrong. But wedding guests insisted the attackers called the groom by name. And here's the eerie part. The bride was returned unharmed 2 days later. But she refused to speak of what happened. Ever. Some say she was warned. Others claim she joined them. Investigators noticed something unusual at the crime scene. On a wall, drawn in blood, was a half-finished symbol. A circle. With jagged lines inside. It matched old graffiti from the 1970s. The signature of Milan's gang. The message was clear. We never left. In 2010, journalists obtained a leaked audio tape. It was muffled. Scratched. But you could hear men arguing in Italian. And then one chilling phrase. "Stop acting like criminals. We are not thieves. We are the state." The tape shook Italy. If real, it meant the gang no longer saw themselves as outsiders. They were insiders, running the city from within. Fast forward to 2022. Milan police investigated an armored van robbery. The crime scene was surreal. The van's doors weren't forced open. The guards weren't harmed. And the cash? Gone. When police checked surveillance, cameras glitched at the exact moment of the robbery. 4-5 full minutes. Static. It was the same signature as the gang's 1983 champagne heist. Coincidence? Or proof the Milan gang had returned? At this point, everyone asks, who really controlled the Milan gang? Was it a mafia splinter group? A tool of Cold War spies? A political machine hidden in plain sight? The answer might lie in one name. A name that keeps surfacing in declassified files. A name linked to banks, fashion houses, and weapons deals. But saying that name out loud, even now, in 2025, is dangerous. Because the last journalist who wrote it down was found dead in her apartment. No forced entry. No struggle. Just silence. So here's the chilling question. If the Milan gang never died, if they control banks, fashion, and politics, then who actually runs Milan today? Next time, we'll dig into the alleged list of names, leaked from inside the Vatican Bank, and the shocking connection between the Milan gang and one of Italy's most famous prime ministers. Stay tuned, like, subscribe for more.